Welcome. And if you've just bought this course, I want to say thank you for supporting me and supporting 40k Fireside. My goal is always to deliver the highest quality product possible and to do it in a way which is really affordable. One of my biggest philosophies is that learning Warhammer shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg. Warhammer is already expensive enough, and connecting with the best players at an affordable price is always what I try and achieve. That being said, this course has took me probably over 40 hours to put together. We've got some real bangers coming up. If you've seen the other courses, you probably noticed that the quality's been going up and up. I've taken it to a whole nother level this time. That's right. Welcome to the Infernal Masterclass, courtesy of Lewis Smith, who gave me that name. It's a good one. Today we're going to be cracking the Thousand Sons Codex, and I've got a couple of guests with you. They're going to join us, namely Alexandra Sacco. Now, if you don't know who this guy is, if you're not like kind of experienced in WTC and European Warhammer tournaments, he is a reigning WTC champion from Team France. He's been playing Thousand Sons for I think he says over 400 games at one point. He's an LGT champion. He beat me at LGT that he won in ninth edition. He's an absolute monster and has a really great way of thinking in the game. He also coaches on StatCheck, and you can get in touch with him. Or if you can't get in touch with him, get in touch with me. I can point you in a direction. So he's going to be joining us for two of the detachment segments. Then we've also got Lewis Smith, who's also joining me for the Rubricae Phalanx detachment. Lewis is someone who's played Thousand Sons for a long time and got him around to my house to talk about this. It's going to be an absolute blast. He's, of course, a member of Team Ignite and also knocked me out of LGT last year. So I basically just invite everyone that's beat me at LGT. Jokes aside, this is an extremely packed course. You should be taking away the knowledge of picking up any detachment you want, see it get played, and then go into a game confidently knowing you've got a good list for the right situation. Okay, first of all, one thing I've done this time differently is I've recorded all the parts in different segments kind of individually and stapled them together. That's because this has taken me well over a week to prepare, and it's been a little bit easier actually doing it in different segments. I've got a bit more energy. Okay, the Infernal Masterclass. There's Araman or some kind of sorcerer lecturing. Okay, tables of contents. It's going to be the same format as the Guard Masterclass. First of all, I give like an introduction. We then go through every single detachment, and then I've got some closing thoughts after that. Okay, so let's jump in with no further delay. Okay, I've just picked out what are the main changes. Now, I'm doing this introduction last, so I've actually done a lot of the recordings for the attachments. So I've had a bit of time to synthesize and talk with the guests, play a lot of games, and kind of take away my thoughts. So what are kind of some of the big ones? Okay, the playstyles I would say are more aggressive than previous codexes, particularly on the detachments we're talking about. I've noticed before, in the index, you might like Doombolt, jump in and out of a Rhino, double Doombolt from like a tight angle, shoot with Magnus with longer range, play a bit more of a board control style, and play safer on turn 1 2. I think what you'll learn is that the most successful builds coming out of Thousand Sons are much more aggressive, particularly on turn 2. So be prepared to play a bit more aggressive on turn 2. If you're playing Mutate Detachment, we've got a special section on that. That's going to have a bit of a different game plan. But, generally speaking, the overarching premises here is a lot of the time Rubrics and Rhinos are the best meta with Flamers, and if you can put them on your opponent's objective to flip that objective and get rerolls, Grenade, and then Overwatch, that's kind of a big game plan. And then that similar build occurs throughout a couple of different detachments, and then it's really the detachment that you choose after that. Okay, we've got, I've just realized I've duplicated this, significantly more freedom in list building. Mainly this is because there's no more Cabal requirements that you have to generate. For example, if you were building a list previously in Thousand Sons, you'd probably be dedicating like 900 to 1200 points, just like reaching a certain Cabal threshold. And that's because you needed that to function, and it's not because you needed it to function, but it's because the spells were so powerful that you felt like you really should be doing it, right? Like Doombolt was D3 plus 3 minimum and D6 plus 3. Temporal Surge was entire movement. Spoiler alert, those things have changed. Okay, then I would say the list building is currently dominated by a few fan favorites. Is probably a good description here. You know, Zangor Enlightened with bows, with great bows, are particularly good. So the lists that we're going to be talking about in here are designed to be competitive tournament winning lists. At the end of the day, you're here for your competitive player. These are lists designed by super major winning players that they would take to a tournament. I wouldn't bring you anything of lower quality. So yeah, you're going to notice some similarities between lists, but you'll like come to understand why they're really good. Okay, vehicle's got a huge glow up. Yeah, this is a really weird one. For me, it was kind of out of left field. I didn't really expect there to be a very viable vehicle detachment. You know, I remember the Chaos Space Marines vehicle detachment, like Vashtor coming out. That was a bit of a meme for like all intents and purposes. And basically, the hardcore vehicle detachments for any combined arms army have always been a bit of a meme. You know, and the last thing I expected was Thousand Suns to have a good one. But yeah, vehicles are a lot better. And a part of some game plans, you're going to want some consistent shooting over a number of turns, and either bow goats or vehicles will offer you that. So there's definitely a chance to play a super competitive list with like a Forge Fiend in it, or a Predator, or two Forge Fiends. Okay. Casting was significantly nerfed. The casting, if you're expecting a big mechanical psychic phase, you're just not going to get that. It's much less Thousand Sunny than it has ever been, I would say, especially since Ninth Edition, or definitely Eighth Edition, but especially since Ninth Edition, and even from the index. Mainly, this is because you have 4 spells now, and your spells are good, but they're like Alex said. Alex Sacco said they're a bit more like gadgets. Kind of like flip belt. They're not like complete build arounds now because they're a lot less reliable. Then I think one way I explained it 1,000 Suns to my opponent when I was practicing a game was I said, it's kind of like Chaos Space Marines, but with some cool spells that I can cast that aren't going to dramatically break the game. More freedom in list building. I've already said that before. That's because there's no Cabal requirements. And brand new strats for build arounds. There are 2 detachments. Well, there's 3, but one of them's pretty bad. It's the demon detachment. I'm sorry. But there are 2 very legitimate build arounds here with the mutate detachment and the vehicle detachment. So you should be really excited if either of those kind of equip your fancy. If you're just not someone who wants to play Rubrics and Rhinos, that's definitely an option as well. Okay, what I'm going to do is I've just realized now that I haven't included something that I probably should. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this tab instead. And let's just run through the spells, because that's a huge part of it. Okay, and I've done if you haven't seen it, I've done a video on the casting mathematics, which is actually really impactful to understand at a very high level. That's on the Fireside YouTube channel. I think it's called like Top 3 Things Changes from 1,000 Suns. So look that up. It's got the mathematics behind all this in a very understandable and readable format. Okay, so before we had a bunch of Cabal points that we would have to spend. Now we don't have to do any of that. So your list building, you don't have to pack it full of like a bunch of characters. Spoiler alert, you're still going to be playing a lot of characters. But you could play a build that has just 4 characters, 4 psychers. And if you don't cast 4 psychic spells on a turn, that's perfectly acceptable. You can still win the game. Some turns you'll just cast Temporal Surge and Destiny's Ruin, and if Twist of Fate doesn't go off, Twist of Fate doesn't go off. It's a lot less impactful. The way that you cast spells, and this is a little bit debated, but most people have settled on, because the psychic test example is terribly worded. You roll 2d6, you pick a target, you pick a psyker, you pick a target, you roll 2d6, whatever your result is, would have to at least meet the minimum casting value here. So 5, 6, 7, 9. And then if you fail a cast, you can then opt to, well, regardless of the result, you can then opt to channel the warp, which is then add another dice in. So, one thing happens when you channel the warp is if you roll a double or a triple, which is 44.5% chance overall, you will then take mortal wounds. So, let's do some practice on this one. Let's say you want to come out. So, there's some new spells. So, before I'll just stick with the ones we know. Let's just say we want to come out and cast Doombolt. Okay, well, it's got a 7 casting cost value. I roll 2d6. I roll a 6. Okay, I've failed it. Then I'm going to add a dice, which is Channel the Warp. Okay, I roll a 5. Now, every casting spell has an alternative casting cost, which is the bonus cast.